If one day, the United States Capitol came under attack, the president, the vice president, and most government officials were all killed, and you had to become president immediately, would you dare take the job? The man on screen is about to face exactly that. Just a few hours earlier, he was nothing more than a low-ranking cabinet secretary who had been pushed out by the president. Then in the blink of an eye, he was sworn in as president. He did not even have time to change into a proper suit. The Secret Service rushed him straight to the swearing-in ceremony. He had no team, no reputation. Almost everyone used to look down on him. But from that moment on, he became the only lawful president of the United States. This is not some over-the-top fantasy story with no logic. It is a political thriller that became an instant masterpiece the moment it premiered. Designated Survivor. Today we are taking a deep dive into this incredible series to see how a cabinet secretary that everyone looked down on managed to hold the country together during a power vacuum while fighting off pressure from a group of seasoned political veterans, and somehow kept a collapsing superpower from falling apart. That night, the president was about to deliver the State of the Union address. The president, the vice president, cabinet members, Supreme Court justices, and members of Congress, almost everyone who held the nation's future in their hands, gathered inside the Capitol. But to make sure the country's leadership could never be wiped out all at once, one cabinet member would be secretly placed in a secure location. That person was called the designated survivor. If the worst happened, that person would become the next president. The one chosen that night was Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Tom Kirkman. But to Tom, there was nothing honorable about the assignment, because just a few hours earlier, the president had already informed him that the White House no longer planned to keep him in the administration. So while everyone else sat inside the Capitol surrounded by power and prestige, he could only wait alone in a hidden safe house, like a spare part, and it left a bitter feeling in his heart. Then suddenly, the television signal was cut off. Moments later, Secret Service agents rushed into the room and ordered everyone to evacuate immediately. When Tom pulled back the curtain, he saw the Capitol in the distance, completely consumed by a massive fireball. The Secret Service rushed him away at once. Then one devastating report after another came in. The president was dead. The vice president was dead. The Speaker of the House was dead. Almost every cabinet member was dead. The entire political leadership gathered for the State of the Union had been wiped out. Tom's mind went completely blank, because he knew exactly what the law required. He was about to become the leader of the nation. Just like that, Tom was sworn in as president, wearing nothing but jeans and a hoodie, in the middle of total chaos.
Sir, place your left hand on the Bible and repeat after me. I, Thomas Adam Kirkman, do solemnly swear.
I, Thomas Adam Kirkman, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God.
The moment the judge finished reading the oath, there was no excitement in Tom's eyes, only fear, because he knew very well, this was not a promotion. It was a burden no one would ever want to carry. Now inside the White House Situation Room, everyone was waiting for his orders. Military commanders, intelligence officers, senior advisors, every pair of eyes was fixed on the new president. Tom was completely unprepared. He had never commanded the military. He had never dealt with a national crisis. And he had certainly never imagined taking over a shattered nation overnight. Before long, his first test arrived. A military general believed the United States had to enter a state of war immediately, because this was not an ordinary explosion. It was a decapitation strike against the US government. If America failed to strike back now, the whole world would see the country as weak. But there was one problem. No one knew who was responsible. There was no evidence. No group had claimed responsibility. No clear target had been identified. They had not even figured out how the explosion happened. Yet the general had already blamed a terrorist group in the Middle East and demanded that Tom authorize military action immediately. After hearing him out, Tom's face grew more serious. It was not because he was not angry. It was because he knew that once he gave the order, the missiles would start flying. If they made the wrong call, the United States would lose Congress, then drag itself into another war with its own hands. Everyone thought this new president would be controlled by the military. But for the first time, Tom showed how tough he really was. He said that without solid evidence, the United States would not rush into war blindly. The moment those words left his mouth, the entire room fell silent. The general looked at him with open contempt. Even the White House staff began to lose confidence. They feared the country no longer had a real leader. Some even started discussing in private whether they could remove Tom through constitutional procedures. At that moment, Tom might have been president in name, but in reality he was surrounded by enemies on every side. Outside the country was burning. Inside the White House, almost no one truly supported him. Even worse, his family had been pulled into the disaster as well. An ordinary family had suddenly been thrown into the White House. From that moment on, they were no longer just a family. They had become the first family under the eyes of the entire world. Tom locked himself inside the bathroom, and finally broke down. He threw up into the toilet. His hands would not stop shaking, because only then did he truly realize what rested on his shoulders was not a title, but the lives of more than 300 million people. But he had no time to be afraid, because the president had to address the nation immediately. His advisors handed him a prepared speech. It sounded official, safe, and completely hollow. After reading it, Tom knew, if he simply read those words, the American people would only become even more terrified. He stepped in front of the cameras, took a deep breath. He admitted that the country was going through its darkest night. He also admitted that he was not the kind of president people had expected. But he said that as long as he was still standing there, the government had not fallen, and America would never surrender to fear. The speech stabilized the situation for the moment, but it was only the calm before the storm. The outside threat had not yet been uncovered. The political struggle inside had already begun. Could this accidental president really survive every challenge that was still waiting ahead?